corner, a ping pong game on the second side, and I forgot what was on the third side.
It's a racing game.
Yeah.
A racing game was the third side.
That's what it was. So that was my major involvement. I walked away from video games about 74, 75, because I got very much involved in interactive video. We tried at the time to enhance video games by using things like video discs to promote better graphics, and but that's very difficult, very expensive. What it did lead to was introduction of interactive video using first videotape, then video disc, first analog disc, and eventually CDs, into training and simulation technology, and finally that wound up in doing things like weapon simulation training and military training. So I got Sanders, my company, my old company, into the interactive video business. We did things like the trainer for the Army, where Army engineers in a vehicle like a tank were shooting petrol charges at embankments, and they trained on a video-like device where they looked through a binocular at a television screen and was playing from a videotape player. The computer we had at the time, that was far back in the 80s, that was an Apple II still the Apple age. And out of that grew a whole series of contractual relationships between Sanders and the training and emulation divisions in the Army, and I think it was the Marine Corps we had a number of contracts with. So you never know where something winds up eventually. More recently, in the late 80s, 89, 90, I decided to go back into doing things. And one of my associates and I built about 7 different things that are very much interactively, very much similar to what's going on in the Wii nowadays. We demonstrated for guys like Emil Heitkamp, who was a VP at Konami, that still is, I think. And he came with 2 or 3 Chinese manufacturing tags and spoke to each other in Chinese and took lots of photographs and ripped it off in a helmet with a lip mic and an eyepiece. And nothing came of it. So here we are in the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm gratified to see all this stuff come back to life in the Wii.
Okay, would you like to take some questions? Would you like to take some questions from the audience?
I'm sure, anytime.
If there are any. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, my question is, Nolan Bushnell often gets the moniker, kind of the creator of video games, or the father of video games, when in reality we all know he's Baer. How do you feel about that?
Okay. The question is, Nolan Bushnell always gets the credit for being the father of video games, what we know he's doing. How do you feel about that?
Well, clearly, Bushnell, grew on his experience as a marker in the summertime when he was going to college in an arcade environment, and came up with the idea of, and secondly, he played spaceball at college, like everybody else did back then. He put 2 and 2 together and said, wouldn't it be neat if we can put a computer in a box, have people play Space War while they're pumping quarters into a slot. That was the genesis of the arcade business. So there's no question that he deserves credit for having created the arcade video game business. There's no argument, no question about that. He also walked away from the concept of putting a computer into a box, because that turned out to be impractical for cost reasons and size reasons, and built stuff out of the street, T-Square integrated circuits. When I say he, it was him, it was guys like Ted Dabney, people at Nottingham Associates, member of the team there, where they built a computer space. So there's a direct line between today's arcade game and Nolan's working on an arcade back in the 60s, coming up with this original idea. The Palm story is a different story, as you probably know, because that derives from the fact that Nolan played an Odyssey game in May of '72 in Birmingham, California, at a dealership, the Magnavox dealership. He played the ping pong game hands-on. Alan Alcorn, who had worked with him at Ampex along with Ted Tabney, and another person that became his chief engineer, Steve Bristow. And they decided to build, and Nolan told Alan to build a ping pong machine. And of course, Alan did a great job. Pong machine was a great success and it started the industry. You know, within the first year in '74, they did about 77,000 games on Atari. Unfortunately, the competition was there. I think in Midway Valley did about 10,000 knockoffs. Chicago Dynamics about 6,000 or 7,000. So they launched the business in a big way.
Okay. Any other questions?
Can you hear me? Or, okay, I was just wondering, you know, what Ralph thought about sort of like this movement in video games taking more of like a narrative element, or sort of like getting away from like the pure games that he sort of designed for. You want me to? Yeah. All right. Which one? This one?
This is talking here.
They heard me. Hey Ralph, how you doing? I was just wondering what you thought about today's video games. Not necessarily Wii stuff, but a lot of the bigger PS3 or 360 games that include a lot of like narrative, as opposed to just sort of like, you know, pure like old school, just like playing the stuff that you were involved with. Like, is it like a good thing, a bad thing, or like what do you feel about it? Can it be a video game? It's more like a movie.
Well, the question is like asking, which book do you like, you know, which movie do you like? And all these genres out there, among there's great stuff, lousy stuff, you know, stuff that's halfway in between. I'm certainly in favor of games that have storylines, but it's just one genre. Some people don't like that, but I do. But I don't play games, so, you know, I'm pushing 89. What I can say is that today's games are so fantastic from an artistic point of view, from a technical point of view, you know, that it just blows you away. Yeah, it certainly wasn't foreseeable 30 years ago where all this was going to go. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else? No more questions. So just want to thank you, Mr. Baer, for being here with us and telling your story and answering questions. Again, we have Mr. Baer's brown boxes up front for you to take a look at. And his book, Video Games in the Beginning, is available at the Video Games booth with his signature. If you want to check out, we have a limited edition. So again, thank you, Mr. Baer, and be healthy.
You're welcome. Have fun. Enjoy the show.